Welcome back, everyone, to the Wedge.52Gridiron Podcast. I'm your host, Wedge. Today's episode will be a preseason preview. Before we jump in, please make sure you press that follow button right here on Spotify. Rate the podcast, as well as check me out on Instagram at Wedge52Gridiron. And leave some comments and likes, as well as check out the 10-minute reports that are up here on Spotify. You can see what episode it is by scrolling through the Spotify page or by looking for it on Instagram. With that being said, just a quick episode today. Not much detail here. Preseason preview. Preseason, the records don't matter. It's more of an evaluation for the coaching staffs and things like that. So while it is interesting to watch, and it is exciting that the NFL season is right around the corner, I am not going to spend an over the top amount diving into details and stats and predictions on every single player for the Ravens or for the rest of the league, just because a lot of those guys that are going to be taking majority of the reps in preseason are not actually going to be starters and big role players during the regular season. Obviously, each team will have, a good handful of guys that will turn into, starters in the trenches or special teams and things like that. But, majority of them won't. So, just a little bit of Ravens news that's happened since my last 10-minute report that I did on the Ravens. Go check that out if you haven't yet. Rashad Bateman is officially back at practice after being on the physically unable to perform list. So he's back at practice. That's exciting for the Ravens. It's definitely a critical year for him in terms of really just his health. We've seen his production when he is fully healthy, and it's definitely, good signs there. But he needs to stay on the field for the whole season. Otherwise, he could find himself in a tricky position for the roster spot next season, especially with the stacked receiving core this year with Odell Beckham Jr., Zay Flowers, signed Nelson Aguilar, who's been looking really good in training camp up to this point, as well as Laquan Treadwell will be fighting for a spot. We obviously have Devin Duvernay. He'll be definitely in the mix there. And then at tight end, obviously, Money Mark Andrews, and then Isaiah Likely is expected to have an increased role just based off of, couple nice plays he made last season, as well as Todd Monken's different schemes that uses a little bit more of two tight end sets in pass concepts. So that'll be interesting. Definitely be a big, important year for Rashad Bateman. And then no update on J.K. Dobbins, really. He hasn't practiced yet. Apparently he's been in the building. He's been watching practice, some of them. But he's still on that physically unable to perform list. Coach Harbaugh most recently said that the ball is in his court. So the coaching staff seems optimistic. It sounds like they want J.K. to be there. I'm sure most of the team does as well. But we'll see how that develops within the next couple of weeks. And then some news from the defensive side of the ball. First of all, Broderick Washington signed a 3-year, $17.5 million extension with the Ravens. And last year he had pretty decent numbers for interior defensive linemen. 49 tackles, 6 passes defensed, 1 sack, and 2 tackles for a loss. So they locked him up, extended him. He's had a good first 3 seasons. I think that the Ravens are definitely hoping that he can kind of turn into a little bit of a staple piece for our defensive line, our young defensive line. Speaking of that, out on the edge, I've been saying that, the Ravens should consider signing a veteran free agent. And Jadeveon Clowney was in Owning Mills earlier this week for a visit with the Baltimore Ravens. I saw that on Twitter that an offer had been made and that Clowney is considering his options. So that would definitely be something that I would be interested in, as long as the Ravens don't overspend on him. Clowney's had some good seasons. Last year, he wasn't his best season, still solid. Only played in 12 games last year for Cleveland. Had 28 tackles, 4 tackles for a loss, 2 sacks, 3 passes defense, and 1 forced fumble. So not like crazy spectacular numbers, but I still think he could be a solid player. So I would be okay with a signing on a 1-year deal, maybe 2-year deal, around that, 2-year deal for under $10 million, hopefully. And then a 1-year deal, maybe around that $3 to $6 million range. So moving on to the Ravens' first preseason game is this Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern. They play the Eagles at M&T Bank Stadium in Baltimore. Not expecting a whole lot of starters to play. And the ones that do play will probably be very limited action. The number one thing I'm looking forward to in this, or hoping for out of this preseason game, in all of preseason, is health. Please get through this healthy. It's been a while since the Ravens have started a season with all key pieces fully healthy at the beginning of the season. I would like to see it this year. So that's my number one priority, is getting at least, our 22 starters and, the 5 or 10 guys, key rotational guys on each side of the ball to remain healthy. Most interesting, or the two most interesting position battles to be watching for Ravens fans during this preseason is the battle at left guard. Should be a battle between Saleh, who we drafted in April out of Oregon. He's been looking good in training camp, and he may get the, from what it sounds like, Saleh might be starting at left guard, but they're going to really see how he looks during preseason in a more of a game-like situation. But if it's not Saleh, it's also the battle between John Simpson and Ben Cleveland. And then the other position battle that is going to be interesting to watch, and we should see the depth chart kind of develop and solidify, hopefully, through preseason, is that cornerback 2, 3, 4 positions, spots. Rock Ya-Sin, I would think, is most likely going to be cornerback 2, starting there during the regular season when that rolls around. So it's really more between 3 and 4 and beyond. And that's going to be, between Jalen Armour-Davis, Kayvon Seymour, and draft pick Kyu Blu Kelly. So that's going to be the two position battles to kind of keep your eye on for the Ravens fans. And then the Ravens, while like I said, health is the number one priority. The Ravens do kind of have a useless record. In 23 straight preseason wins, doesn't get you anything. But it would definitely be nice to continue that streak for the Ravens. Just to, why not? So, that kind of wraps up what I have to say about the Ravens. Just a little bit about the league. I didn't, like I said, I'm not going to go in depth over all of it. The diehard fans will be able to, find out information about their team preseason if that's what they want to do. But the Hall of Fame game was last week, where the Cleveland Browns won it 21-16 over the New York Jets. That game was played in Canton, Ohio. And then the Hall of Fame induction ceremonies and all of that stuff was the following day, or, that following weekend. And then, C.J. Stroud, number 2 overall pick, has gotten the nod to start tonight in the Texans preseason opener versus the Patriots. So then a little bit about just what to expect from the Wedge.52Gridiron Podcast and myself in the content that you can be expecting the next 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks, as we get ready for the regular season. First of all, so I will be releasing my top fives for tight ends, running backs, wide receivers, and quarterbacks. I'll start releasing those next Tuesday, the 15th. And then one of those will drop each week up until the week before week 1. And then that week prior to week 1 will be a double episode week where Wednesday, the 6th, right before the season, I will have my full week 1 preview. It'll be slightly different than what I plan on doing during the season, just because it won't have the previous week's recap. But week 1 preview, record predictions, or game predictions, and more will be included in that Wednesday episode, the 6th. So that's kind of the plan for now. Top fives every Tuesday, leading up to the season. Wednesday before week 1 preview. I don't really plan on doing any preseason updates or weekly preseason episodes. Maybe if there's some big news or multiple big news things that happen with the NFL or the Ravens, potentially. But we will see. Other than that, I'm working on the top fives. Thank you all for listening, especially if you made it this far. I know this one is not very exciting, but just wanted to, get this out. Stay ready. Make sure you guys stay ready for the season. Follow me right here on Spotify. Check out some 10-minute reports of not only your favorite team, but maybe their division. Thanks for listening. Go Ravens.